All right, plan for this Gym Talks topic is a question from Sebastian the Lion, lion spelled with a 0. And he says, for the non-competitive gym bro, well, I just read it a second ago, but for the non-competitive gym bro, how cut should you be before starting to main gain or bulk up? For like, the reasonably serious lifter, not like a crazy ass bodybuilder, but like you're starting to lift, I want to beef up a little more. If I'm already kind of soft, do I really want to get even softer in a bulk? Then I'm going to have to deal with dieting down. It's a pretty damn good question, right? And to that, I would say, just how much body fat do you think you got on your frame? Because as a beginner, you've got a lot of leeway. Like let's say even a year 1, year 2 lifter, purely from eating your protein intake per day of, let's say you're a 200 pounder, eat 200 grams, you're a 150 pounder, eat 150 grams, all from at least reasonably quality protein sources, combined with working out and just like eating foods that you're hungry for, that's going to be enough to make some pretty significant gains, at least as long as you're in the gym. Stimulus from the workouts is intense enough to actually elicit kind of a necessary response. But let's say we're kind of looking at someone who's a little bit plateaued. You've been working out for a year, year and a half. You would no longer consider yourself making like super quick newbie gains. All right, so that's where I would say, if you can tell you've got a little bit of pudge on you, it might be a good idea to just do a short mini cut first. And I almost don't even like the phrase mini cut, because it's still a calorie deficit. It's just over kind of a relatively shorter period of time than most people would think. But kind of preemptive to starting a bulk, it's not a bad move. It's kind of weird if you haven't bulked up or cut down yet, because once you're in that like cycle of things, then it's pretty easy to decide when you should cut down or when you should bulk up. Because if I just finish this bulk in September, I'm not gonna think to myself, oh, all right, let's start another bulk. Like it's just time to cut it and then switch back over, right? But if you haven't done either yet, then you might be a little curious. All right, well, do I want to get a little leaner first and then pack on size? Or should I just try to pack on size even if I think I'm a little soft now, and then deal with it later? Which I would argue, whichever one you think will leave you at the end of that bulking phase with the most reasonable amount of body fat on your frame. Like when I see guys bulking up and they get a little bit softer, you're still in the green, right? You're still basically within range of how bulked you can get responsibly if you don't get a certain level of body fat, right? Because if you got, I see guys running around now where like their bulk it's taken to an irresponsible degree. I think I'm to blame a little bit. I was talking all my stuff about all the crazy junk food and everything else, but keep in mind that was with cardio, crazy workouts every day, actually burning through some of those calories as well. But if you know somebody who's taken the bulk too far, yeah, not awesome, right? Because you're really setting yourself up for failure. Because if you get too soft, when you try to cut down later, it's going to be so just freaking troublesome to lose all that body fat that you're going to diet for way longer than you preferably like to, and in the process, strength loss, probably some size loss as well. Then you got to build all that back up. So I guess if I had to make a guess or an estimate, if you're around 15-ish% body fat type of guy, you've been lifting, you're repping 185 minimum. You're up in the 220s for at least maybe a triple or so, and you look it up, just look up like a body fat percentage chart and look up something like an 18%, 20%. If you're kind of already there, I think it might be a better idea to try to diet down at least, even just 1 month of a real deficit. Like if you counted your calories and you actually did it, even just 4 weeks, you can lose 4 pounds. Like it's not, you don't have to be dieting for months to suddenly make progress later. Like it's pretty instant if you actually get into a quick deficit. So I'd say if you can tell you're a little softer than you might like, or you at least don't want to get softer than you are right now, you know, just look up your maintenance calorie calculator, start tracking your macros, add some cardio in. I mean, there's a reason I say that every time, is because it freaking works. And if you can get into an actual deficit for 6 weeks, odds are you can bulk for much longer than 6 weeks, you know, eating in a minor surplus, and you're not going to gain 6 pounds in those 6 weeks of body fat back. It would take much longer, you know. So excuse me. But yeah, if you think you're a little on the softer side than you would prefer, it's probably a good idea. 2-month deficit, 6-week deficit. Actually do it. Don't just cheat. You know, just because you feel yourself getting a little bit weaker, that doesn't mean back off on your lifting intensity. I mean, frankly, the weight, if you kill it, if you're actually pushing your sets as hard as you can to failure, the actual weights that you're lifting, like the numbers themselves, they're kind of inconsequential, right? If every cable stack, well, I mean, I guess these ones all have numbers on them, but if all the cable stacks in my gym didn't have numbers on them to tell me how heavy it was, or all the dumbbells were unlabeled and I didn't know how heavy each one of them was, you know, just by feeling, I'd be able to reach a weight where I'm like, okay, this is pretty heavy for me right now. I'm going to take this weight as hard as I can, right? So if it's a heavier set, then, you know, heavy might only be 40 pounds, right? I mean, look at the last couple lifts I was doing in the, you know, in the prep, the last few weeks getting ready for the Vegas show and the Arnold. I mean, I don't know what I was curling. Definitely not the 65s or the 70s. I mean, I was going much lighter. But the set still felt heavier because, you know, even though I was temporarily in a weaker state, you know, not moving around as much weight, the weight still felt the same. You know, do you get what I'm kind of saying? It's like if I got under a 5-plate squat, and that's as much as I could do for 10, and some other younger guy, or not younger, but just like less experienced lifting wise, got under 2 plates and he can only do that for 10, then we're both feeling the basic equivalent weight, right? And if we both take that set to failure, then we're each pushing it to the same level of intensity. And honestly, I think that's a really good way to look at it, because then it's, you know, it's not so much, oh man, that guy's lifting so much more weights than me. Right? If you really kill and you take a set extra, you know, extra hard, you're actually squeezing the top, you have somebody help you with some assisted reps or anything else, and you take a set to failure or beyond, I mean, there's nothing else you can do, you know. So I guess that's my logic. So I guess the one of the biggest points I'm trying to say there is, if you start a, you know, maybe a 2-month, 1.5 month dieting phase, getting ready for an off season, or I guess getting ready for a little bit of a bulk, or, you know, trying to eat just a bit more food, don't let those 6 weeks throw you off your game just because you might think, oh man, well, I was benching 225 for 10 last week, and then now I can only do it for 6. Oh, right? Because that is a very classic situation where it's, oh, I'm losing strength, I got to eat more food. My lifts are going down, I got to eat more. And then, you know, that's just holding you back from making the actual bulking progress that you wanted to later, because, you know, you're not giving yourself a little time to set yourself up in the beginning. You know, when somebody's building a skyscraper, they don't start with the windows, right? They don't start with the freaking top. They start with the with kind of the boring part, just digging out this foundation, filling up with concrete and rebar and everything else, and then starting to, you know, creep it up. I mean, it takes a while before it actually looks like anything cool. You know, so that's where time is on your side, because, I mean, shit, man. Do you remember when you graduated high school? Do you remember when you, I mean, back when you were a kid, like riding bikes around the city or something? Like, I mean, I'm sure it's not so different for you than it is for me. Like, it feels like that time passed by like nothing, you know? So that's where I say, just at least go for it now. And I'm sure your future self will not regret it. Or maybe if you did for some crazy reason, at least you can say, man, my freaking hamstrings are huge. This is nuts.